Welcome to this week's episode of Wealth Plan TV. Today we're dealing with outs and ins, or cash flow. And we're moving a little bit from tradition today because we're going to show our flow of money series right at the beginning of the show because it's got great relevance to the topics we're covering. So I'll see you at Flow to Money. This week we'll be looking at expenses. To understand and control expenses, it's best to categorise them. This is done to help us get a clear picture of where your money is being spent. There are a number of expense categories, and because I like alliterations, I call them the 3 M's. So we've got mandatory, manageable, and mayhem. So let's define them. Mandatory, these are expenses that are necessary to maintain your desired lifestyle. Any lifestyle that we aspire to should enable us to spend money on food, shelter, and anything that's memorable. Spending money in these categories could be considered money well spent. Manageable. These expenses almost appear to be mandatory, but they can be managed. So wealth can be created by controlling items such as phone bills, excess use of utilities and items that seem to be necessary but can be saved upon. And mayhem, well okay, maybe it's not really mayhem, but I wanted something that started with M. But it does get the flavour of uncontrolled spending. This spending has certain characteristics. Firstly, it can't be remembered. Where did the money go? A question about money spent in mayhem would always solicit the response, I don't really know, I just spent it. Should money cease to flow into mayhem, it's seldom missed. Often money spent in this area costs us rather than adds to enjoyment. A couple of extra drinks at the end of the night can make us forget about the night totally. A few less drinks would make us remember a really enjoyable evening. So spending money doesn't always increase our level of enjoyment. When I was advising, we used colours to indicate these spending patterns. So red was mandatory, orange was manageable, and green was mayhem. We will visit this shortly. So this is the end of the flow of money section. I'll see you at the expert spot now. Hi, I think you can see why we did the flow of money out of order. It's a perfect introduction to cash flow management. We spoke about expenses being mandatory, manageable, and mayhem. Let's see how they actually work in a budget. We'll do that by relabeling them. So mandatory expenses are red, you've got no options, have to be paid. Manageable expenses are orange, you've got some options. And mayhem, or what I'm calling uncontrolled spending, is green. Okay, it has to be spent. I mean, we have to enjoy ourselves, but it's cool. Let's have a look at the computer and we'll give you an example which is much better than chatting about it. Okay, welcome to the computer. This is a budget I once worked with, but the client now is Ivor Budget. So you can see that Ivor is earning $50,000 a year and all of his spending is put into the budget. We're going to scroll right down to the bottom line because that's the thing that interests us the most at this point. You can see that Ivor's going backwards by $3,600 a year. So let's go back up to the top and show you how the mandatory, manageable and mayhem works. Okay, let's work with the actual budget and you'll see how this sort of works out. We're going to call rent mandatory, so therefore that will be red. So let's label it red. Telephone, we've got some ability to alter the telephone, so we will make that one orange. So if the telephone bill is too big, we can do something with that. Okay, hairdresser, I suppose it's a little bit mandatory, but I think I'm going to make that green. The point here is that it doesn't really matter. It's just a way of analysing our spending. There's no mistakes to be made here, truthfully. Okay, so clothing and footwear, we'll make that one green as well. Now then, let's see what else we have. Transportation. He uses public transport for work, so we're actually going to make the public transport red because that's mandatory, but we're going to make all of these, we're going to make those green. So, sorry, orange, because there's some control that can be exercised here. Taxi fares, I think I'm going to make those green. I'm sure it's sensible to pay for a taxi. But at the end of the day, a designated driver seems to me to make more sense. The point here is that we shouldn't be changing your lifestyle enormously, but we should just be tightening up a little bit. We'll make living orange, I guess. As I say, there are no mistakes, there are no errors. We just have to do it to help us analyse. You'll see how that works as we get a little bit further down the track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on and mark up all these so we can get down to the analysis. Okay, I've sped through and I've marked up all the items. Look, as I say, it doesn't matter whether they're right or wrong, it's just a way of analysing it. So now what we're going to do is say, if we've got to find 3,590, then we need to make some changes. And the place to start is in the greens. So let's scroll up here and have a look at the greens. Okay, Christmas presents 3,000. Well, that's really unreasonable. Let's say he really likes his relatives. Let's make it 1,000. 1,500. Holidays, okay, we could justify it, but not when he's going backwards at 3,600 a year. We have to make some savings. Let's make that 1,500 as well. Entertainment, 150 a month. It's probably not unreasonable, but let's knock it back to 100, because the point here is that he is wasting money. He can't go on living without taxi fares. Well, in fact, we lost taxi fares here. Let's put them back in. Let's give him $50 a month for taxi. Because he does have to get back, but not heaps of money. Okay, clothing and footwear. Again, it's not an unreasonable figure, but if he's spending more money than he's earning, we just need to work on it. Hairdresser, $75 a month. No, not for a bloke. Fair income. Let's make it 35. Okay, let's see if we've got any other greens. No, that's all the greens fixed. Now you can agree or not agree with the amount I've changed, that's not important. So you can see that with those changes we've reduced his deficit to 500. Now we work through the oranges. But before we do that, we have noticed here that he doesn't have any insurance. Now income protection is essential. So we're going to give him $70 a month worth of income protection. That's orange. So we've just added to his expenses, sadly. So let's scroll back down, and now that he's better protected, have a look and see how much we've got to deal with. Okay, he's now going backwards by $1,350. The difficulty is that when people are going backwards in their budget, they say they can't afford insurance, but that's the time they most need it, because if they were to have a reversal, they'd be in real problems. Okay, so gym, 180, not bad, but we're going to knock him back down to 90, and I'm going to tell him to go for a run instead of going to the gym. Or, as you know, my view is take up yoga. Vehicle insurance. He's driven a year without accident. We'll see if we can, we'll make sure that he gets something a little cheaper, so we'll knock that back a bit. Okay, so it's our next orange. Living, 900. Well, look, truthfully, we're still trying to save money. Let's make it 800. It means that he might actually have to buy some fresh food rather than packaged food, which will actually be good for him as well, so that's cool. Now, we've made these changes. We'll say that the vehicle expenses can't be changed. Telephone, 180, come on now. He's only got a mobile phone. I don't know what plan he's paying for. Let's give him a generous plan and let's give him 90. Okay, that's cool. Let's see what we've done down at the bottom now. Okay, we found him 2,600. He's now in excess $2,000 a year. Now that's not a big excess, but it will probably take care of most catastrophes. We need to be aiming for 1,000 or 2,000. We could, if you like, go back and give him a bit more money. Okay, so you can see how working with an actual budget works. All you do is you isolate the items you want to work with, and you work with the ones that have most flexibility to move. Okay, that's the end of the Expert Spot. We'll see you after the break. We'll be chatting to Dale.